In this video, you'll learn how to use Tux Equipment's mobile pump fill station, the TEMPF-HS. Before we get started, let's familiarize ourselves with the machine. The mobile pump fill station is mounted on a cart with casters so that it can be easily moved. It can be configured for either one or two workers by repositioning the V-table and heat sealer and moving the bag holder. The height of the V-table can be adjusted for different bag lengths. It consists of a pump that fills casings or pouches through a nozzle. The pump uses pneumatic air pressure to transfer hot or cold product from one vessel to another. The pump's piston can be adjusted to pump up to 1 gallon of product. The pump can also be used to fill pans, tubs, bowls, and buckets, and to transfer products between vessels or to load vessels with pumpable products. It uses stainless steel tubes, food-grade flexible hoses, and dairy clamps to make connections from the vessel to the pump. A heat sealer hermetically seals the bags. Both the pump and the heat sealer are activated by foot pedals. An optional bag clipper is also available to seal bags. At the start of the day or in between jobs, the mobile pump fill station should be sanitized before beginning operation. When it is not being used, it should always be cleaned and left in an assembled state. Start assembly of the pump by locating all the parts. The parts include a plunger, barrel, rotary valve, push pins, O-rings, dairy gaskets, and clamps. Attached to the pump is the head block, rotary valve cylinders, and drive cylinders. Put a small amount of food-grade grease on your fingertip and apply a light coat all the way around the O-rings. Then install the O-rings on the plunger. Install the plunger on the pump shaft. Then rub grease into the back side of the barrel about 2 inches all the way around. With the plunger all the way to the back, put the barrel onto the plunger. With one hand holding the gasket on the barrel, use the other hand to push the barrel into the block. Move the plunger forward until the barrel seats against the Teflon dairy gasket. An alternative method is to insert the gasket and position the barrel. Then use the hand wheel to push the block head. The barrel should now be supported by the plunger and the dairy gasket. Attach the dairy clamp with the nut facing one of the upper corners of the head block. Now let's install the rotary valve. First, install the O-rings on the rotary valve. On the outsides of the rotary valve, put a small amount of grease on the O-rings. Wipe a small amount of grease on the bearing section of the head block, approximately 1 inch from the edges, all the way around. Lift both the upper cylinder rod and rotary valve locking arm. Then, with the valve cutout facing the metering barrel, insert the rotary valve into the head block until the rotary valve groove lines up with the valve locking arm. Lower the locking arm to lock the rotary head. Then attach the top and lower rotary valve air cylinders to the valve arm using the 2 push pins. To install the nozzle assembly, begin by putting a dairy gasket on the head block and then set the standpipe on the gasket and head block. Position the outlet port of the standpipe over the top of the V-tray. Install and tighten a dairy clamp to hold it in place. On the exit end of the standpipe, put a gasket on and attach the nozzle housing using the heat shield with the dairy clamp. Ensure that the discharge side of the nozzle weldment is facing down. With a gasket on the nozzle assembly, put a small amount of food-grade grease on the O-rings and install them on the spool valve. Put food-grade grease on both the inside of the nozzle housing and on the spool valve assembly. Slide the spool valve assembly into the nozzle housing. Push the gasket down on the nozzle housing and use a dairy clamp to fasten the nozzle assembly. Plug in the two airline hose extension lines into the nozzle. Attach the air supply to the pump and open the valve. Plug in the electrical power for the heat sealer. It's time to connect the pump to your vessel. Your connection may be different depending on the distance from the pump to the vessel. Common components include an elbow, Food Master flex hoses, dairy gaskets, and clamps. Roll the machine to a location near the vessel. Starting at the pump, connect a 90-degree elbow to the head block using a dairy gasket and clamp. Make sure the clamp nut is facing an outside corner of the head block. Connect the next sections of the inlet package from the vessel using dairy gaskets and clamps to the elbow on the pump. You may have to move the machine either closer or farther away from the vessel so that the tube lengths fit the run. Lightly tighten each clamp as you assemble the connections. Once you've finished with all the connections, go back and tighten the dairy clamps. The pump uses a barrel and plunger to pump the product. Let's briefly explain the pump adjustments. To adjust the pump volume, make sure the plunger is forward. Using the lock knob on the adjusting screw, rotate the hand wheel to move the plunger to the desired location. There are pre-marked positions for weight or volume of pouch that you'll be packaging. Rotate clockwise for more volume and counterclockwise for less. Stop at the position that you will be packaging. Tighten the lock knob on the adjusting screw to lock down the volume. The two flow control valves located on the drive cylinder must be adjusted to maintain a proper flow of product in the pump and also in the nozzle. These valves control the speed of product that is pumped. The forward flow control valve controls forward stroke. The reverse flow control valve controls the reverse stroke. The pump is now assembled and adjusted, and the mobile pump fill station is ready for operation. Begin operation by opening the drain or discharge valve of the vessel. Take a bag from the bag holder and position it below the nozzle. Rest the bottom of the bag on the V table. Use both hands to hold the bag around the nozzle. Using your foot, push down on the foot pedal to activate the pump. The pump will pump up to 1 gallon of product with each press. When the product is in the bag, remove it from the nozzle and position the open end on the heat sealer. Using your foot, push down on the heat sealer foot pedal. Put the sealed bag aside and continue this operation until the kettle is empty. At the vessel or kettle, close the drain or discharge valve. Then loosen the dairy clamp and hose so that the food product drains. Remove all the clamps and hoses. Finally, disassemble, clean, and sanitize the pump, nozzle, and all the parts. For more information, contact Tux Customer Service.